Hello and welcome to Optimal Game State. Today I'm back looking at Legion Imperialis and I'm working on updating some of the forces I have. So I run some Imperial Fists and I also have a competing set of Iron Warriors to play against them if I need to drag a new friend in who doesn't have an army. We have a bunch of changes, a bunch of things that have come up. So I'm just going to work my way through them bit by bit and kind of explain what I'm doing, where I'm going. So the first one is that we can now take apothecaries with our tacticals. So in this case, what I'm going to end up doing is looking for the tacticals where I've done this. So I've done that cross rather than the circle, I guess you'd call it, or the star. And I'm just going to pull off the middle guy and I'm going to replace him with one of the extras that I've got left over. Now, they didn't tell us ahead of time when they were going to be doing this, which is a little frustrating. I kind of move these out of the way. I keep all of my bits separate. And one of the reasons I do so is you often end up with extra models. So once I get enough, I'm going to be able to get another stand, another set of assault troops, but right now I just need to kind of work my way through them. So normally when I paint, I'll normally paint on sprue. That's why a lot of these guys are already painted yellow, and then if I got extra ones, I'll throw them in the box. So I've got the apothecaries. Hopefully you've done similar. What seems to be the optimal play is to have one apothecary for about every 8 stands. And the reason essentially is it's got a big bubble, and if you're feeling, what, 8 to, well, if you're feeling 4 to 12, then you're able to kind of capture them all within that one big bubble. So it's very cheap and it gives them essentially a feel no pain. So they have a save that they can make after they die, and it can help. You also can do it with the missile detachments, or sorry, so the tacticals where you basically take the minimum tacticals, you get an apothecary, and then you max it out with the missile launchers, which is a great approach, very effective, and then this gives it a little bit more reliability and a bit more of a boost. Anyway, the way we will be doing it, these all, for me at least, get attached with super glue because I paint my bases first. And then what we're going to need to do is we're just going to need to snap this guy off if we can. Maybe we can get him off. I'll do it off camera. But we're going to pull off the middle guy. Pull off the middle guy. Awkward. And then we're just going to replace him with one of these. It's nice having it in the center, as it just is a little bit more visually pleasing. If you didn't have extra apothecaries that you'd saved, to be honest, you could just go in and you could paint one of your tacticals in white or give them some kind of white spots to let you know what he is. So, okay, that's step one. What's next? So we do also have tokens that came out recently. So as you can see, I've sprayed these on sprue and have started painting up the symbols to make it a little bit clearer. I haven't painted the backs. I may or may not do that. Not a necessity, but kind of a nice to have. So I've got one set of gold for my Imperial Fists, and then I've got a silver set that I use for my Iron Warriors, although these guys haven't been completed yet. So that's a work in progress. So sprues. Okay, so sprues, that's apothecaries. We haven't even got to the fun stuff. Okay, so moving over to the Saturnine stuff. So Goonhammer did a very good article on it. Here we go, guys. These are, like the apothecaries, going to get put onto lollipop sticks. So with the big box, we got enough to make 2 full units of standard weapons. So there's only 2 ways to make these guys. Unfortunately, you can't mix and match as you want. So it's a separate weapon. So at the end of it, we should have 4 of this combination and 4 of this front combination, and we can field them separately. Okay, so they're relatively straightforward. Your Saturnine leaders, again, only one way to build them. You get the 3 of those guys together. But there was a little bit more of a complication for the actual Terminators. And I have to admit, I was even more confused when it came to them. Okay, so this is 2 disruptors. This one is a disruptor and a fist. And the last one I need is 2 bombards. So out of this brew, what you can do is you can make 3 of this guy, 3 of this guy, and 3 of this guy. And then out the second sprue, you can do the exact same, but instead of having the disruptor and the fist, you can have the bombard and the fist. Once you've done that, is that right? 3, 3, yeah. So that will give you 6 of this, 3 of each of those, and then 6 of these, which is enough to make 3 bases of 1 weapon each if you give if you give one of them a fist. Okay, so this is the example of a base with a double disintegrator, and then a disintegrator and a fist. So strictly, they should all be double disintegrators, but the box doesn't let you do that. Or at least if you did that, you'd have to have a base of guys with fists. The fists are terrible, from what I can tell. They don't really have great CAF, and the bonus they get from the fist doesn't help them win. It does 2 points of damage if they win by 4. They're probably not going to win by 4. And if they do, they're probably facing off against a detachment that's only 1 wound. So useless. So what you're looking to do is you're looking to double up weapons, or the alternative is to do 1 disruptor and 1 bombard in each. If you do that, you are still going to have a situation which the Gunhammer guys pointed out, where you to field everything, you want to put a 1 on each base that has a fist. I mean, you could say he's a sergeant. It's going to be 5 weapons rather than 6. Doing the bombard and the disintegrator is going to cost an extra 10 points though, which means for each base it's going to be 10 and then it goes to 1 per base, so 30, 60. It's going to add up fast, and they're already 85 points for 3 bases. My recommendation, the way I'm going to be doing it, is I'm going to be going with the double weapons, which don't have a point increase, and you're going to get the same amount of firepower out of it ultimately. These, I have to admit, these are very, very cool models, but for effectiveness, they don't seem great. The bombards are quite good with their 12 range against infantry, and then the disintegrators at their 8 range are much better than the normal terminators against tanks and stuff. If you mix the weapons, they are quite good. So the disintegrators against infantry are quite good if you get in the range, but I prefer the idea of having units like this. So I know I want to get these disintegrators within 8 inches. I know I want to get my bombards within 12 inches to be effective. That's my approach. Yeah, so no more really to say on that. Again, we are going to be putting on popsicle sticks, and we are then going to work our way through it. Okay, so yeah, limited options, 9 Terminators, 6 of each on one side and 3 on the other. So that's the arms. And the best you can do is 3 of each paired, and then 3 of one with a fist. And then the second sprue does the exact same, but you reverse the weapon with the fists, and that gives you 18 Terminators split into 6 bases of 2 paired weapons and 1 of the same weapon and fist. Now, that does mean you are going to end up with 2 different sets. So yeah, 6 bases each, which I think is good. Alternatively, if you want to be a little bit keep everything the same, you could have them disintegrator and bombard, and yeah, just have them, but they will cost a little bit more to do that. Bombards do have barrage, so no overwatch, and dice values halved against garrison detachments, which is annoying. Okay, the next thing I want to look at is, where are we? The Arachnes. these are all just decisions we had to make when we were doing it, and it kind of frustrated me. So I'm trying to help you by looking at the decisions that I've made. Okay, so the Arachne can only make 2 of these missiles. So we're going to make 2 of the missiles. I then gone for... Well, you did have a choice. What you can do is you can make 3 of the autocannons, and you can make 3 of the... what are these? Punisher cannons? So they're Gatling guns, basically, for mowing down infantry. Because these are very, very good, but short range, what I've gone instead is I've made 2 of those, with the idea that if I do actually drop 2 of those to cover a space or a section, that they should be very, very effective. And then I've built the rest out of them with these autocannons, which I think are probably a little bit more useful because they've got a bit of a better range. So that's what I've gone. 4 of the autocannons and then 2 of the Punisher cannons. Haven't fielded these yet, so this is all me just saying what my preference in building was. So just trying that one out there. The next thing I want to mention is sponsons. Okay, so we've got a couple of different vehicles. Okay, well, we've only got the Mastodon. The Mastodon, I went with the las cannon, and the reason I went with the las cannon is because this monster up here can pair with it. So when you're looking at sponsons, always think about primary target, what the main weapon is going to be shooting at, and then see if you can pair your sponsons with that. My favorite example of that, do I have it handy? That's my favorite example. So this is a las cannon rhino with las cannons as the sponsons. So the other option would have been heavy bolters, which are good for a number of reasons. But because anything we're going to be shooting at with the main las cannons, we can then just add more firepower at the same range and basically the same stats. I think it doesn't get accurate or something like that. But it's when we're lining up one, it's not going to be useful with the other. For this, for example, if the flamer was the main weapon, when we're lining up, the las cannon, maybe the way around. Yeah, so if this was a sponson option, okay, and it didn't have point defense, you'd have to try, and you have a long range for your main target, that shot's going to be wasted. So that's kind of useless. In this case, this is a bit of a weird one in that it has a lot of point defense. It has a lot of short range weapons. It's got Skyfire on this, so it can target other things. So you kind of have a choice. You can put more heavy bolters or something if you wanted. But in this case, I figure anything that this is targeting will either be a aircraft, in which case this is targeting a different target, or the las cannons will be able to reach them with extra damage. A better example maybe is this one here. So again, we're looking at las cannons on this fell blade, because the main weapon is actually going to be doing a good amount of damage on the same target, if that makes sense. So anything that this main gun can hit, the las cannons are probably going to be able to hit also. There are some of the super heavies where you might want to go a different direction. If the main weapon isn't something like it's doing something specific or something special, you might find that instead switching the spawn over to the heavy bolters that have point defense and can choose a different target will work well. As a side note, you can see here I've got all of my hatches closed. I am of the opinion that the sponson weapons can be contained within the tank, and then when they want to fire it, they can just pop it open and then stick out the heavy bolter and then fire it. So as far as I'm aware, that's how modern weaponry does work. It doesn't always have to be out. It can be stowed, and I think mine are going to be doing it that way. That gives me the option of saying I am going to spend the extra points, which I think with these guys I probably will a lot, to have the heavy bolters in the, what's it called, the pintle. The pintle mounted heavy bolters will be active, or they won't be, depending on how I'm feeling about points. So obviously I'll be telling my opponent ahead of time. It won't be a surprise, but that's my approach with these. I don't think you need to have the model showing it. If someone wanted to say they want to run the sponsons differently, I'd be fine with that, but personally I like having sponsons look right. Okay, what is next? So we've done the Arachnes. Oh, the fire raptors. Do I have examples of my fire raptors? Oh, no, sorry, I need to go back. So the glaive. So this is the fell blade. You may or may not pick up the fell blade. This is one of the extra heavy weapons that turn extra heavy tanks that turned up. But there is a twist. So I noticed this on the Goonhammer article. Yeah. So this is what their glaive looks like, all painted up. The one that they have. It is incorrect. Frustratingly, what happens when you build a fell blade is you will build your fell blade one, and then you'll build the glaive just because. But you'll get to the end where they've done the glaive, and then you'll skip over all the sponsons and stuff that they do at the end because you've already got your sponsons in place. However, for the glaive on the sponson, there is a little bit of extra. So they've got a little cable coming here. You can see the holes on it, and then they've got, I think it's like a rocket mount or something up top. Not quite sure what that is. It's a minor difference, so I missed it the first time round. I see on the Goonhammer website that they missed it themselves. This painted up is going to look fine. I'm probably not going to be using it for these anyway. But yeah, keep an eye out because I already threw out the extra bits for those. So I only have 2 rather than the 4, but I think it's unlikely that I'm going to be running 4 of these because I love my Fellblades. Okay, so that's the Fellblades. The glaive, collecting sponsons, pintles. I talked about all those. The only other thing I have is the fire raptors. Do I have my fire raptors handy? Okay. Here is one of my fire raptors. So I already had 2 that I built for my Iron Warriors. And what you do when assembling it is you put a magnet, 2 magnets maybe, in the middle. So in this socket, and then this socket, in between the 2 sockets, there is enough space to get 2 magnets in. And when you do that, and then when you assemble these, what you want to do by preference, is put a stainless steel ball in it. But unfortunately, they need to be ferrous. Okay, so you need to get some balls that will are magnetic, will attach to a magnet. In this case, the ones I had were non-ferrous. Some of them are ferrous, some of them are not ferrous. Unfortunately, you're going to have to look around and see what you can find. And yeah, I wanted to get these done, so what I ended up doing was putting magnets in them. So as you can see, they will go in, but sometimes they will go in at weird angles and will insist on going in weird directions. So this one will never, oh, sorry. This one will not point forward. It just gets weird like that. But you know what? I'm fine. So it does mean that I can switch these different options in and out. So I can have the auto cannons, or I can have las guns, or I can have heavy bolters, depending on what I want. So what you're doing is, when you're assembling them, magnets in the center, just before we close this up, and then when you are assembling these weapon pods, you're going to put by preference, a ferrous ball inside it, so it will get attracted, and you can put it in if you want, or if you get stuck like me, you can just put another magnet into it and then hope for the best. Okay, what else do I have in here? I think that's it. So relatively straightforward. I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of Legion Imperialis to paint, and I'm looking forward to it, but it's a little intimidating. But the construction, those were the bits and pieces that I got started on, and I hope those few decisions and those few tips will help you when you put together your box. So thank you very much for listening, and I will get some more detailed content later.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible 2-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.